Hi guys. I was asked in a comment from my last video, which if you didn't watch, I don't blame you. It was really long and kind of sad. But PayDaytheLil, I think I said that right. Did I say that right? Let's check. Yes, PayDaytheLil. Asked me to talk more about mental illness and getting through it and keep on keeping on kind of thing. And I guess for me, it helps that I am very, well, I mean, it sucks for them, but I was very fortunate that my parents both suffer from mental illness. In particular, my father, who is also bipolar, in the same way that I am, which is his manias are not overtly manic, so it took a long time for him to get accurately diagnosed as well. But my hair looks terrible. Don't do that hair. Ooh. I don't know what's happening here. Yeah, so even though things were shit sometimes, and my mom didn't really understand what was going on with me a lot of the time, they were still really supportive, and they really listened to me. And having been so young with mental illness, literally born with mental illness, you learn things about yourself, and you understand things about yourself in a way that I think a lot of people don't understand. I was talking to my best friend Aya, one time about how there was someone that I was friends with, but that I didn't feel like I could ever be close friends with them because they'd never suffered, if that makes sense. There's something that happens to you when you experience very powerful difficulties in your life that changes you, and for people who haven't gone through that, I feel like there's a level of personal awareness or a level of strength of will that just isn't there yet. And everybody goes through some shit at some point in their life. That's just how life works. At some point it's gonna get shit, and all you can really do is go, man, things are kind of shit right now, and just sort of see, do your best to hold on. And especially with mental illness, because it can be incredibly unpredictable. The factors involved are huge and varied. The treatments are intimidating and terrifying, and experiencing it is very difficult because you go through this period of knowing yourself and feeling these feelings, but also constantly second-guessing yourself and doubting yourself. Like, is this a legitimate way to be feeling right now? Is this a rational response? And for more serious illnesses, you may even be questioning reality itself. Is this real? Not just are my feelings real, but is what I'm going through, is this reality? Which is terrifying. That's terrifying for anybody. Nobody wants to wake up one morning and go, holy fuck, is this real? Like, no, that sucks. And I highly recommend that if you are suffering from mental illness and you don't have a lot of support in your life, that you check out, it's psychcentral.com or psychcentral.org. But they have a forums there, and they have a newsletter that comes out every 2 weeks, and they have an ask the Nola's sitting in my lap, fluffing her tail. And it's good to go to and see other people and talk to other people who are going through the same thing that you're going through, because it is very hard to make someone understand where you're coming from if they've never been through it themselves. So having that support and having someone that you can turn to who understands, or who is at least incredibly sympathetic to what you're going through, makes a big difference. I think that if my parents had been any less open or less understanding, I think I would have had a much harder time. In fact, I question whether I would have made it. There was a rough period. I was about 18. Yeah, I was 18, almost 19. And I mentioned it in the last video, that there was a period at the end of 2006 that I don't actually remember, because the depression that I fell into was so deep that I lost track of time. I basically just slept and ate and watched Adachi videos, and I think that the only reason I'm alive is because I latched onto this. I latched onto this Adachi, the boy bands, and I kept telling myself, well, you know, I can't die today because a new episode's coming out tomorrow, or I can't die this week, you know, because the new single is coming out next week. And I didn't want to kill myself, but I didn't want to live either, and that's kind of a hard thing for people to really understand. Suicide in particular is really hard for people to understand, because to them it seems like a drastic response, but people who are suicidal are in a place where they're so detached from feelings that life is as empty as death would be. So why bother staying alive? And I think that's issues. Woo! Flashbacks. I think that's hard for people to understand, is that it's not like it's the easier option. It's that it seems like a reasonable option when you're that low. Because true deep depression is not, it's not sadness. That's a depression, but true, deep, severe suicidal depression is devoid of feeling. You're just so empty. You don't feel sad, you don't feel happy, you don't feel anything. You don't have feelings anymore. And at that point, why bother? And it's really important that you keep reminding yourself of when it wasn't like that. Or reminding yourself that it won't always be like that. Because it won't. It has been better. It can get better again. And you have to keep that in mind when you go through this sort of roller coaster of what the hell kind of thing. When I was, and it's also hard because the treatment is quite scary as well. When the first medication that I was on was Paxil, and I started taking it when I was 11 years old. And we'd been trying to get me a prescription since I was 9. That was when it got bad enough that I actively needed I needed drugs. And we went through a lot of herbal stuff first, and it just didn't do anything. And my father kept asking me, like, well, what do you want to do? Like, we've tried this, we've tried this, we've tried this. What do you want to do? What will help you? And I said, well, you know, natural stuff doesn't work. Can I try medicine? And fortunately, my parents were receptive to that. Unfortunately, the way that the laws are written in Washington State, you can't prescribe to someone under 12 unless they're actively in therapy. So I had to see a therapist for 2 years. I had to see him once a month for 2 years. And I hated him. I felt his entire purpose was completely irrelevant and unnecessary. Like, nothing in my life was causing me difficulty. It was a chemical thing, and even as a child, I understood that. It's like, no, my parents are nice, I have a great life, I'm good at school, I have friends, I'm just fucked in the head. Like, I understood that. And so therapy didn't really make a lot of sense to me, because it's not like I could talk myself out of a chemical imbalance. It just wasn't like that. And I think that the reason I had to see him was to confirm that my life was perfectly okay, because the hoops we had to go through was insane. I remember we saw one social worker who reduced my mother to tears by heavily implying that all my problems were as a result of my mother's problems with her parents, which is just so incredibly fucked up that to this day I boggle at how that woman, how she even got her job. Like, how fucking inept do you have to be to stop talking to the kid with the problem and talk, like, what? No, let's keep it where it should be. Let's keep it about me, thanks. But then I started the pills when I was 11, and things improved. At that point, they hadn't diagnosed me as bipolar yet, so I was still having manias, which were not fun, and I still had panic issues, so there was, like, anxiety issues, and the Paxil's kind of your go-to beginner. It's either Paxil or Wellbutrin is your beginner antidepressant. That's usually what they start you on, and the reason they start you on those two is that they're because of the classifications that they are, and most antidepressants or mood stabilizers, I'm not 100% sure how that one works, but for, like, Paxil is an SSRI, which stands for Selective Serotonin Reuptake Inhibitor, and I learned all of this when I was, like, 10, because I wanted to figure out what the fuck they were. I wanted to know what it was going to do. Like, why was I this way? What was the medication going to do? And why did I have to take it forever? That was the other thing. I was like, okay, why do I have to keep taking it, though? I don't understand. Medicine, usually you take it, you get better, and you're done, but I have to keep taking it to stay better. So, you have to understand a little neurochemistry. So first, your brain is a base, it's like it's a battery. I mean, there's a lot of electronic shit happening in your brain, but in addition to electronics, there's a lot of chemical shit happening in your brain. And basically everything that your brain does is triggered by certain chemicals. They're hormones, neurotransmitters, and there's a slew of them, and I'm not familiar with all of them because I am not a neuroscientist, but the ones that involve mood are usually serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. There's one other one, anyway, SSRIs. So what happens in with the person who has a chemically imbalanced brain, which is what a chronic mood disorder is it's either a wiring issue, so your brain has some sort of problem with like serious mood disorders like schizophrenia and things are usually a little bit more than chemical. Like, there's something else going on, but chemical is a big part of it. But for, like, depression in particular, it's a chemical problem, and the reason that happens is that your brain releases these hormones and then absorbs them again. That's how you have a synaptic firing. A synapse, what is it? It's the axon? Dendrite. In any event, the end of one one cell, your neuron, I can't, axon, dendrite, I think it's dendrite and axon. In any event, one of them goes pew and spits out a bunch of your neurotransmitters, and then the one under here goes, oh, yum, 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 and eats them. And then, if there's anything still floating around here, it sucks it back up. This is the reuptake. Okay. In a chemical imbalanced brain, what tends to happen is your brain goes, doop, doop. It just reabsorbs them before it has a chance to get down here. So you spit it out and you pull it right back. So it's releasing this hormone, but it's not getting absorbed. You're not getting it. It just goes right back where it came from. So what a reuptake inhibitor does is it lets your brain release the hormone and then stops the reuptake process. It pauses it. It says, nope, 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 can't do it. Nope, don't reuptake. Nope, nope, nope. Okay, and pulls it back. it delays that reuptake process and allows your brain to absorb the chemicals that are being released, thereby fixing the imbalance. You're getting those hormones that were being denied before. Unfortunately, the brain is also really, really adaptive. It will pick up on changes really quickly, and it tries to fix itself. Problem there is that sometimes fixing itself is basically restoring it to what it was before. And if that before state was bad, your brain is constantly trying to change itself back into the bad version. So that's why you have to change medications a lot or change dosages a lot, and why you can't just stick with one at one dosage forever. Your brain gets used to it. Your brain goes, hey, hold on a second, and springs back to where it was before. And for some people, it's a really slow adaptive process. Some people can be on the same medication for years and years and years and only have to bump up the dosage once or twice. Especially for young people, that's common. But as you get older and your brain gets a little bit more complicated in terms of chemistry, it does change. And the changing the medication process is really scary because there's always something new, always something different. There's new side effects to watch for. There's new interactions to watch for. And for the more severe disorders, especially, you can get some like actively dangerous things. There's always, especially with depression drugs, there's always the possibility that it will make you worse, which is really bad. Obviously, that was a problem with Prozac when it first started being actively prescribed, is that it was being prescribed but at dosages that were too high initially, and basically would kick people into depression even further until the point that they actually commit suicide. So Prozac had a bad rep for many years because it was not carefully prescribed, shall I say. But that's actually a possibility with just about every depression control medication, is it could make you worse. So as a patient and as a person, you have to be constantly monitoring yourself and determining, how do I feel? Is this a normal feeling? Is this a good feeling? Is this a bad feeling? Is this a rational feeling? You have to check yourself a lot, and that's really hard to do. But the more attention that you pay to yourself and to your feelings and to your surroundings, the better you get at knowing when something is wrong, which is the first step in knowing when you need to get help. When I got really bad in 2006, it was because I had gone off my medication, which was a stupid thing to do. I'd moved out of state. I didn't know how to get my prescription, and I didn't know how to use my health insurance by myself. I'd only ever gone to the doctor with my parents, so I didn't understand how to do that away from them. So I ran out of my Paxil, and I thought, I feel okay. And I did feel okay for like a month. And then things got really, really horrendous. So I went back on the Paxil, and things got better. And then, I don't know why I decided to do it. When did I do? I went off it again. And I was off it for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years. I was doing okay. And then I was definitely not okay. Things got drastically different. And part of that has to do with actually puberty. Mental illness is notorious for being onset in young adulthood. So, like, 14 to 22, 23, that's prime mental problem area. Like, yeah. And the reason for that is your brain is suddenly producing totally different hormones in totally different scales. So a brain this problem might be really tiny, suddenly your chemicals change and it's way, 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 way worse now. So that happens a lot. And conversely, if you start treating something that happened as a result of puberty, once you finish puberty, your brain goes, ooh, and changes again. And so you get to go through the whole dance of the medication again. And it's kind of exhausting and really fucking expensive in the United States if you do not have good health care. I was very lucky. I did have very good health insurance. And here, I have very kind doctors and good health insurance. So, health insurance is good. And if you have a mental illness, it's especially important that you get help. You can't, I mean, it's not like a cold. You're not going to get better unless you fix it. So, my best advice is, if you are having problems and you do feel like it's really affecting your life, because there's, well, I feel kind of sad today, and I can't get out of bed because I don't see the point. That's when you need to get help. And it's hard to see that when you're in that place. It's hard to recognize that you're in a bad place and you should be somewhere else. So when you see yourself starting to go down the road, that's when you need to act. That's absolutely the moment when you need to do something, because once it gets bad enough, you're not going to be able to help yourself. And that's when things get dangerous. So I learned myself. That's what I had to do. I had to learn how I felt, what I was like at different stages of my cycle of mood. And I had to figure out, like, getting the bipolar thing was tough. And I had to suggest it. All the doctors that I saw, they recognized the OCD, they recognized the panic disorders, they recognized the depression. But because my manias were not standard manias, they didn't see it. And I had to do a lot of my own research to figure that out, because I noticed things were not right. And I noticed it in my father first. I actually I thought my father was bipolar about 2 years before he was actually diagnosed. And after he got his diagnosis, I went, I'm going to check that again, and realized, oh hey, I have manic states, and they are manic states. They're different from most manic states, but they are manic states. And so that's what I took to my doctor. And I think, unfortunately, for American medicine, doctors are not really good at diagnosing anymore, especially for mental illness. They're just not, well, depends on who you see, but they're not good at that. They're not good at diagnosing anymore. So you have to do a lot of your own research, and it's scary. It's terrifying to be reading and going, oh shit, I have that. Oh fuck, I have that too. Oh my god, I have everything. And it's scary, but you have to learn yourself well enough to say, this is not how I should feel. Or even, I should feel something. Really. There's signs you should be watching for. And it's hard to feel like anybody is on your side at that point. It's hard to feel like you're even human at certain points. Or that there's a future, or that it gets better. Because you just can't even see that far out of the hole you're in. So, having a goal helps. Know where you want to be. Where do you want to be? One of the best things my father has the best advice he has ever given me was that I should do what makes me happy. It sounds pretty simple. It's not actually that easy, because a lot of things you have to do, even though you hate them, you have to do it, like college. Yeah, I hated college. I hated college. Oh my god, I hated college so much. So much. But I had to do it. I wanted to teach in Asia, and you cannot get a visa in Japan or in Korea without a 4-year university degree. And for Japan in particular, they will only accept 4-year degree from arts or arts, letters, or sciences. So if you have a technical degree, it won't work. They don't accept it. So if your goal is to get here, pay attention to what your degree, how you got your degree. Is it a technical degree? Doesn't matter. 4 years? Nope, no good. You can't get it. It's got to be arts and letters or sciences or ilk. Hilariously, it doesn't actually matter what your degree is in, unless you want to get like a really good job. If you want to get like some sort of coordinator position or something, like they prefer master's degrees, or they prefer education majors. I have a science degree in social sciences. I'm as far from an English major as you can get, or a Japanese major, so, but they're fine with that. It doesn't actually make that much of a difference, so don't worry too much about that. Basically, you just gotta keep your eye on the goal. Like, what do you want? Why do you want it? Okay? Go. Do it. Go. Do whatever you have to do to get that. I went through 3 years of college that I absolutely hated. My first 2 years, I didn't like them, but I hated my last 3 years. I went through 2.5 years in a country that was killing me slowly. As evidenced by my rapid change in weight. Oh my god! I gained 35 pounds in 2.5 years in Korea. And in 1 year in Japan, I lost 32. So, I'm still losing. So, there's shit. You gotta go through this shit. It will happen. And you can't let it stop you. It will slow you down, no doubt about it, but you can't let it stop you. You can't forget why you're doing what you're doing. And if you keep reminding yourself that you're doing it so that you can be happy, that makes a big difference. If you are in a situation and you look around you and you go, I am not happy, this does not make me happy, I'm miserable, then you need to get out, or you need to get out. Whether that means getting out of a shitty job, it means getting out of a shitty relationship, it means separating yourself from your family if your family is causing you great distress. You have to do what you have to do for yourself. So nobody else is going to do it for you, and probably they're not going to make it much easier for you. So you have to be pretty tough, and you have to be ready to be your own hero in a way. You have to be ready to go through stuff and know that you're going to come out of it at the end because it's what you want. What do you want? Okay, go. And that's what kept me going, is just being able to go, alright, well, what's next? How do I want to get there? Okay, let's go. So, yeah, it's, what do you want? What is it that you need to be happy? Once you figure that out, do whatever you have to do to get there, to be in that place, to be in that state of mind, because there's no point to anything if you're not happy. There's no point to life unless you can enjoy it. And there will be times when you won't enjoy it. There will be times when you're miserable. There will be times when you absolutely hate everything and everyone. That happens. It happens a lot. But it passes. And it will come and go. Especially if you're mental illness, it will come and go. I've had to adjust my medication multiple times over the course of the last 3 years as a result of who the fuck knows. Just my brain goes, decides it's not going to do that anymore. So, and you also have to be very careful, especially in Asia, and, well, pretty much anywhere. Be careful about who you arm with this information about yourself. Be careful who knows, because people will make judgments. The media is terrible with mental illness. They are terrible at representing it. They are terrible at showing treatment. They're just really bad at it. So, if someone does not have mental illness, or has not been faced with it in a family member or a close friend, and you say something like, oh, I don't have this, they may be completely thrown back by it and not get it at all and judge you for it. So, and those people are absolutely not worth having around you. If they can't accept that part of you, then fuck them, they're not worth it. they're really not worth it. You deserve friends, you deserve family who understands and loves you how you are. So if your friends and family don't do that, find some new friends, make yourself a new family. Because there are people who will love you the way you are. There are people who will love you warts and all. There are people who have been through what you have been through and understand it and will do everything they can to help you because they're your friends and they love you. So find those people. They do exist. They can be hard to find. They're a little bit hard to find sometimes. But find them and they will help. And while you're looking for them, be your own friend. You gotta love yourself, too. And it's hard. Sometimes you're like, man, I'm fucked up. I'm fucked in the head. Oh my god, why does anybody like me? I'm miserable. I hate everything. And that's pretty normal. Sometimes you just hate yourself. But you've gotta remember that you're worthwhile. That you deserve to be happy. That there are things about you that are wonderful and magical and unique to you that no one else can have or no one else could appreciate the way that you do. Like, what's something that you absolutely love? Keep yourself in that. Do what makes you happy. Do what it takes to be in that place where you like who you are and you like what you're doing. Because that's a good place to be. And don't ever stop. Goals can be tricky because if you reach your goal, and you will, if you're stubborn enough, you will do it. It's kind of hard to see where you're going after that. That's happened to me twice now, where I get to my goal and I go, oh, now what? So try to keep giving yourself something new. Like, okay, well, you did this, awesome, you got through it, way, awesome, good to go. What's next? And it's sort of like feeding yourself along. And that's a good way to get to ride through the bad stuff, is to go, well, you know what? I did this, like, this worked, this turned out awesome. I'm gonna keep going, gotta keep finding the next awesome thing. And once you do, great, you're in a good spot. So, check for you. You said you were just starting high school. So, for you, good resources, guidance counselor. I did not go to public school, but I have many, many, many social workers in my family. And 2 of them, possibly more, I can't remember, are guidance counselors. And a guidance counselor's job, their whole job, is to listen to you, listen to your what's wrong, what is causing you problems, and to help you. And that's their job. They don't check with your state or check with your school district about what they tell your parents, because some guidance counselors are required to keep whatever you say private, and some are required to tell your parents everything that you say. So if your parents are not supportive or don't understand, check before you say anything. And there's tons of community-based support. There's crisis hotlines. There's health centers. There's actually a lot of options, and that Psych Central site that I mentioned will help you find those. Even if it's just someone to talk to. I've called a crisis hotline. I have. And I spent 2.5 hours on the phone with a woman, just pouring my heart out, crying. God, I cried. And she was really nice and really understanding, and it was nice to have someone who doesn't really know anything about me and has no preconceptions, just to listen and to get those things out. And part of the reason I do this vlog, this is for me. I do this for me. I'm not doing this for subscribers. I'm not doing this for I do this for me, to keep track of myself, keep track of my life, keep track of where I am and where I want to be. And it's a good way to do that. Just pour yourself out to people who don't know you. Just let it go. Let it all out, because you'll feel better. Don't be afraid to cry. You're going to cry a lot. I cry a ton. I cry so easily. But that's okay. It's okay to feel like shit. It's okay to hate. It's okay to hate yourself sometimes. Don't. You want to love yourself, but you're not always going to be able to do that. And it's okay. Really, everything that you're feeling, everything you're going through is totally valid. Like, just because it's not rational doesn't mean it's not real to you. It is. And there's nothing wrong with you for feeling feelings. And there's nothing wrong with you as a person if there's something wrong with you chemically. It's hard to separate the two sometimes, but I'm fucked in the head, but I'm still a person, so and there's nothing wrong with me as a person. I think mental illness, you gotta remember, is an illness. It's an illness, and it's an illness that probably won't go away unless you help it. So help it. You could try therapy. I've never had good luck with therapy, but it's usually because the things that they teach you in therapy are things that I taught myself. So I don't feel like I'm getting anything out of it. But some people swear by it. Some people say it's really helpful. And if you are starting from a blank slate and you don't really know where you are or what you're doing or what's wrong, sometimes therapy is really helpful. You can talk to someone and they can view it objectively and say, well, you know, are you sure was that really a valid response to that situation? Or well, you really think, why did you feel that way? They ask a lot of reflective questions. If the therapist is telling you how to feel, they're a bad therapist. Drop them immediately. If a therapist tells you how to feel, or starts talking about themselves, which has happened to me twice, ditch them immediately. They're terrible therapists. Therapist's job is to listen to you and to reflect back at you what you say, because it gives you a way of evaluating yourself that you might not otherwise have. So you say, whoa, this happened and I felt this way. Then they'll go, well, why did you feel that way? Then you go, I don't know, I guess it's because of this and this and this. And they haven't really done anything except repeat back to you a question that makes you reconsider what you said or did. And that's part of therapy. The other part of it is teaching you how to deal with it. Teaching you how to cope is a big one. I learned how to cope the hard way by having to do it. That's how I learned to cope. But that's the sucky way to do it. So if you have an inclination or the ability to go to therapy and learn how to cope in healthy ways, I would recommend that. So there's lots of ways to cope that are unhealthy. I've done a lot of them. Especially like self-harm. It's not a good way to cope. And you can't just... The thing with self-harm is that when you tell an adult or parent or someone, their knee-jerk reaction is usually, oh my god, stop, and they take away all the sharp things. But that's not really helpful, because people who self-harm do it because they don't have any other way of coping. They don't know any other way to deal with those feelings. And if you take that away from someone without giving them something to replace it, you're doing them a lot of harm. So, cutting is a big issue with young people your age right now. So it's happening a lot more than it used to. And I think it is partly because there is knee-jerk reaction of, oh my god, dude, stop! But, because it is a really bad thing. That's not a good way to cope. You shouldn't be doing that. That's not a good way to cope. It's not good for you. It's not good for your emotions. It's not a good way. There are better ways, but you have to be taught them, or you have to learn them. And just going, no, and taking away the only thing that you have is not going to help you. So it's important to remember that if you or a friend is doing this, like, yes, someone should be made aware that this is happening, but it should be someone who knows what that means and knows how to deal with it, because you can't just make them stop. Not helpful. Not helpful at all. Will make it worse. Easily. So, there's that. A therapist can teach you how to cope. They can teach you how to deal with yourself, which is hard. And it's much easier said than done. Deal with your problems. I'm trying. But that's pretty much how it goes. And in the end, really, all you can do is hang on sometimes. There will be days where you just gotta get through the day. There will be weeks. You just gotta get through the week, month. Sometimes things suck. They suck really hard, and there's only so many ways to make it better. But if you keep shooting for that happiness thing, then you can get through it. If you keep going, if you have something to base it on, like say, well, when I did this, this made me happy. I'm going to do this again. Just keep aiming for this. Because you can remember, yeah, that was awesome. I was happy then. I want to be happy. I can be happy. I am capable of happiness. And then you keep shooting for that. Because you are capable of happiness. You deserve happiness. And you can have happiness. You can. It's going to be a pain in the ass to get sometimes. But you can. So, fight on. You can do it. And if you need help, I am here to listen. Forever and ever. Or at least as long as the internet works. Which hopefully will be forever. If I have no internet, there goes my source of happiness. I'm fucked. No, the internet will always be here. So yeah. Where's my phone doing? Oh, it must be 9 p.m. I have to do my hoop pay, girl. Buzzy. Where's my phone? Buzzy, buzzy, buzzy. Oh, I'm gonna fall over. Yeah. See? That's how it goes. Any more questions? Let me know. I'll see what I can do to help you out. Thank you for asking, and I hope this helped you.